And I always associated, like, Nintendo was for the rich kids, and then not Nintendo was for the poor kids. I don't know why. I even do it today where I'm like, oh, Apple is for, like, the rich people, and then...
All right, welcome back to
I
Darksiders.
have a question.
I have an answer. What's up?
For the menu where it said passive abilities,
Mm-hmm.
is that where Wrath would tell, like, his shadow person that his bag doesn't match his shoes?
Wrath or War?
War,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Because you said
That he-
Wrath, and I was thinking
that
like
he,
the 7 deadly sins, or
That he can't believe he went out in that outfit. They're the passive.
like passive aggressive.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at.
Okay, I'm following now. Well, we got some angels. They have a different aura about them, but they are nonetheless corrupted angels. By the way, revisiting a topic we brought up towards the beginning of this playthrough, I remember one series, with the exception of the television show, I believe, where angels and the like are in a positive light.
Yeah?
Castlevania. Unless it's a specific like fallen angel,
Okay.
they are portrayed as good. They are holy characters.
Okay.
It's evident in Lords of Shadow. It's evident in a handful of Castlevania games. What few there are, they are portrayed as a good omen.
Okay. I don't think I've seen where I don't remember angels in the anime.
Yeah, you might be right. There's none in the anime, but their depiction appears in Lords of Shadow.
Okay.
So yeah, there is that. I think their all-time worst, to where like they're just like chaotic and bad, just as bad as humans, with the exception of Darksiders, is Bayonetta.
Yeah.
They're pretty bad in Bayonetta.
I mean, like, the thing is, like, I don't recall ever having even watched, like, a show where angels are the good guys. They're, like, they always start
Touched by an
out,
angel.
like...
Bazing!
I have a comment on that.
Any Lifetime movie that
they always
features
start
angels.
out as, like, meaning well, and then it
Christmas
just, like,
specials.
shit hits the fan.
Okay.
But, like, you said touched by an angel, and there is an ad that comes up all the time on my Snapchat about, I think it's RuPaul's drag show.
Okay.
And it's, like, two of the drag queens talking.
Mm-hmm.
And the one is like, I was touched by an angel. And the other one is like, yeah? You don't say. And he's like, yeah, I was touched by an angel. Well, I was touched by a priest. I shouldn't laugh, but I do.
Oh, bruh. What's going on with these phones? Stop this.
It's Snapchat.
I heard your phone go off than mine, and I was just like, what the hell? Alright, I need to find myself some health. We still got a ways to go as we go through the tunnels.
The tunnels.
The tunnels. And once you go inside the tunnels, there's no going back. She's always hungry.
I'm very excited to, like, get into the meat of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, you've been reading it for a while, and you're still at the Tom Bombadil part.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because Tom Bombadil is the one thing outside of the books that nobody dares revisit. It's not in the Bashki cartoon.
Whereas,
it's
like,
not in
I
the
don't
Jackson
understand
films.
why. Like, I feel like he would be a really
not
fun
only that,
character.
Tolkien himself, like, never revisited the character or never really explained beyond his involvement in the book, like, what his overall purpose is. Like, Tolkien goes into excruciating detail about the world, the language, the characters, the origins, all that stuff. That's why everyone is so, like, hung up over things like Rings of Power, or when people do something that deviates from Tolkien. It's just like, dude, he like,
literally explained everything.
Yeah,
like,
he has, like, you have all the research at your fingertips. Why would you just be like, nah, I don't want to do the homework. I'll just do my own thing. And it's just like, well, why don't you just do your own thing?
Yeah.
Well, we still want the Lord of the Rings money.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. Like, they want the name attached. And it's just like, come on, man. don't do that. But, and it's like, it's really good. It's just right now it's dry.
Yeah.
Because they're just kind of like bebopping along.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like you, because I read the Hobbit, and it's a completely different style than how the Lord of the Rings goes.
Yeah.
And it's so much more detailed, but it's also like it takes its time to like build every event.
Yeah.
But when you have a reread, when you go back to read it, you have that anticipation of like, oh, are you in Moria yet?
Yeah.
Are you
like,
at
where
Weathertop?
are you?
And it's the realization that no, it takes a while for that shit to happen.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because some people are just like, the movies take a while for shit to happen. I'm just like, imagine if it was word for word an adaptation from the books. They'd be like 5 hours long.
Yeah.
I believe they're called the extended edition. I could be wrong.
See, I don't like. So I feel like it's just a shame they left Tom Bombadil out because he is like a sassy character. Like he is a very fun character. And
Well, Jackson casted a guy for Tom Bombadil,
Yeah.
but like early on, he was just like, "This movie's way too goddamn."
I
long."
even feel as though like they could have. I feel like they could have done it if they really wanted to.
Okay.
From like because the hobbits still have to go on their journey and they still face strife while they're on that journey. Like they definitely could have put Tom Bombadil in there somewhere
Okay.
without adding extra time.
They just chose not
They just
to.
didn't.
Okay.
But it's like I really enjoy because the part that I just read last night, Frodo like called for his help.
Uh-huh.
And like the way that I pictured it in my head, because they were like, he travels like a mole underground.
Yeah.
So it was just like, but you could see his hat. So like his hat was above ground, but he travels underground.
So here's the thing. Do you think if he was in the film, would he be a beloved character? Or do you think audiences would treat him like Jar Jar Binks? To be like, this guy's a little hokey. Even if he is in the book, I don't like him. Like, how do you think audiences
Well,
would
I
have
feel
reacted?
like it would depend because Jar Jar Binks was so different from everything they were going with
Yeah.
in the other movies that I feel like that's why people hated him so much because he was just so different. Like that was the introduction to trying to bring kids into Star Wars. Like
I'd argue it was the Ewoks, but
I mean the Ewoks are cute and everything, but they still like I don't know. Like Jar Jar is a more significant character.
okay.
He has dialogue, he's in the plot, like not that the Ewoks aren't.
It's funny because George Lucas was just like, I've been dealing with this since the beginning. Everyone was just like, I hate C3PO, he's annoying. I hate the Ewoks, and now it's Jar Jar. And he was just like, what I felt bad for was the actors.
Yeah. Which I don't understand. I love C3PO.
Again, I don't know what the rules are of like characters you like or characters you hate.
I think it's just
like,
personal. Like I know
there's
people
some,
that
like,
really like Jar Jar Binks.
notoriously like hated characters that
Yeah.
are viewed as annoying. And then there's other characters where it's just like, wow, they're so out there, they're awesome. I'm just like, huh?
So, but I feel like
Alrighty.
because he would show up so early within the movies,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people would be indifferent.
Gotcha.
Like he would just be a character they meet along the way.
Okay. Because Hobbit fans were like that with Radagast the Brown. He was viewed as a little like over the top and kooky and stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen the Hobbit movies.
I have not.
You have not seen the Hobbit movies. They're fine. They are okay.
Yeah.
The way I describe it is the Lord of the Rings were movies where they were just like, we're going to treat this material seriously. We are going to do a very serious adaptation of a fantasy. We are going to try to bring sword and sorcery into the mainstream.
Yeah, and I feel like it did
And
that
then
really
with the
well.
Hobbit, they were just like,
money!
we don't have to try as hard. We're still the best.
Yeah.
It was just like, we're going to make something awesome with Lord of the Rings. And it's just like, we're going to make more. We're just not going to try as hard. That was the Hobbit. So, and again, that's just my take on the whole thing.
Yeah.
So see it as you will.
I feel
Because sword and sorcery was like a niche. in like the 80s and
I mean,
early
honestly,
90s.
I still think it's a niche. It's just a little bit more popular.
Okay.
I feel like it's one that you love it or you hate it.
Gotcha. I love it.
I know you do.
I love it. From the Dragon Slayers to the Willows, I eat it all up. Until we get to like the more modern stuff that I'm just
I love it when
I'm
it's
full.
when it's done well.
Okay.
Like
Well-
whenever I see like a really good adaptation or like read a really good adaptation, which is probably more accurate,
Oh, okay.
I absolutely love it. Mm-hmm. But then whenever I see one that's just poorly done, I'm like, eh.
I got you. Well, it's not your thing. You're more into the like angels and demons in
Yes.
modern world.
Very much. I'm way more into like theology, like theological stories, or low fantasy. Mm-hmm. So where it's like fantasy elements in the modern world.
Yep. That's why you're big on Harry Potter, and I'm big on Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. Okay, so on to the game at hand. These are the Ashlands, and those are the sandworms. Manipulate time, and they won't chase you down.
Okay.
Because all you have to do is walk on sand, and they hone in on you. It is a one-hit kill because they swallow you
It's kind of
whole.
like Doom.
Yep. I think this took a lot of inspiration from Dune. Like, both visually and, like, the way the worms are implemented.
We talk a lot about, well, not we personally, but like society. Not even society. I see a lot of people in like the book community talking about how like Tolkien is the like the father of fantasy,
Yes.
which is totally accurate.
Yeah,
he
he basically wrote the holy Bible of the
Right.
fantasy genre.
We see a lot of like modern day is Stephen King for horror, even though originally it was like Mary Shelley and Bram Stoker. Like
Yep.
they like created horror. But very rarely do I hear people talk about how Dune is like the OG sci-fi.
The sci-fi, yeah. In certain quarters, like there are certain groups that like treat Dune highly, but of the main public, yeah, it doesn't have as big a push.
Like, it's just, even like a lot of sci-fi novels, I don't really see many people. Like, more people are more interested in fantasy and
Sci-fi
fiction
has a
than
very
sci-fi.
like if you think fantasy is niche, sci-fi is even smaller. I think they got like Star Trek.
Well, because, like, to me, sci-fi is just space fantasy.
No, so don't do that. So those are two entirely different genres. One's called like a space opera, and it's kind of like more fantasy elements, space fantasy, whereas sci-fi is more like modern world and technology and stuff like that. There's no fantasy elements. It's more like through like the science and stuff like that, it could happen. That's the pursuit of sci-fi.
Okay.
Whereas space fantasy is very similar to like the Star Wars and Dune
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah, those groups don't get along.
Which I think is stupid. Just like your own thing and let other people like their own thing.
It's not how it works. It's got to be like sports teams.
Ugh.
It's got to be like, my team that I don't play for is better than your team that you don't play for. So it's like, the movie that I grew up with but I had no part in creating is better than the movie that you grew up with that you had no part in creating.
Yeah.
That's how these fandoms and genres work. I was there during the console war of the 1990s. I inevitably took a side when my father gifted me the Super Nintendo. Little did I know that there was a hedgehog-driven Genesis appearing in the nearby corridor. Oh, the battle was a weary one, and to this day they still cannot accept the fact that Nintendo won.
It's so funny how I like all through growing up. I don't know if anyone else did this. I'm sure that people do. But I've always associated certain things with like rich people, and then there's like the poor people version. And I always associated like Nintendo was for the rich kids, and then not Nintendo was for the poor kids. I don't know why. I even do it today where I'm like, oh, Apple is for like the rich people, and then Android or PC are for like the poor folk. And then I'm like, but there are Androids that are more expensive than an iPhone.
Yeah.
Like, but in my brain, I'm just like, I don't know why. I'm just
Well,
like,
you do that with networks too. You were just
Yeah.
like, the rich kids watch Disney.
Yeah,
the poor
the
people
poor-
watched
poor
Cartoon
kids-
Network.
No,
and those in the
no.
middle, they were in
no,
Nickelodeon.
poor kids watch Nickelodeon.
Poor kids
and
were
then
Nickelodeon.
like
Okay.
the in between kids, the like the future weirdos and like alternative kids watched Cartoon Network.
Okay. Who watched Fox?
Republicans. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, now.
That's a modern issue.
Not fond of the Fox cartoons, I
I
see.
don't even remember which cartoons were Fox.
Peter Pan and the Pirates.
I
Because it was clearly called Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates. Tim
I-
Curry did the voice of Captain Hook.
don't even know what that is.
It was really cool. It was a non-Disney Peter Pan. So it was like taking it in its own direction. But it really explored new dimensions of the character.
Okay.
It was pretty cool. Because, like, I'm trying to remember, like, what was on, like, Fox Kids and stuff. Because, like, I want to say that's where the X-Men were originally. Same with, like, the animated Spider-Man series.
Okay.
And Mighty Max. Oh, Mighty Max was the shit. Another villain voiced by Tim Curry.
Didn't watch any of those. But we also didn't have cable, so
There was a time when the Turtles were on Fox Kids. But I don't know if it was always on. Because I'm pretty sure it moved to Cartoon Network eventually.
yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then, of course, there were the younger siblings of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Extreme Dinosaurs and the Street Sharks.
You showed me pictures of them.
And the Bikers from Mars or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Creepy Crawlers, Mummies Alive. Power Rangers, I believe,
So I
was
feel
on
like
Fox.
then Fox Kids would probably be like where the rambunctious little boys watched cartoons.
That was me. I was a rambunctious little guy.
Where like parents are like, oh man, little Jimmy has ADHD. Like, put on Fox Kids. He'll watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, and the X-Men until he falls asleep.
Pretty much, yeah. That's pretty accurate, actually.
Whereas, like, I'm sure I've mentioned it in other playthroughs, but like we got to watch TV in the very early morning. My mom would drop us off at my aunt's house on her way to work, and then my aunt would take us to school in the morning. Mm-hmm. And she had cable, so we would watch TV in the mornings there. And then after school, we would go to my grandparents' house.
Okay.
And both sets of grandparents had cable, so we got to watch TV there. It wasn't always what we wanted to watch, but and then I think I was either in 8th grade or 9th grade when we got cable.
Okay.
Because I remember being stoked. I was like, what?
I don't remember like when we got cable or internet. I know we were like slow on the internet uptake. It took a while for us to get internet.
We
Like,
didn't
there
have
was a few years
internet
where like
until I was like
everyone else
graduating.
in school got internet, and then like 3 or 4 years later, it was just like, I finally got internet.
Yeah.
I finally get to
I
do what
know.
the cool kids are doing.
We didn't get internet at the house.
Oh,
like
Pokemon was on Fox. Pokemon
okay.
debuted on Fox.
then yeah, we watched Pokemon in the morning. At like 6 o'clock in the morning, we would watch Pokemon.
Ouch.
Because my mom had to get up at 4:30 to go to work, and me and my brother were too young to be home by ourselves, so we had to get up at 4:30, and we would get ready, pack up all of our stuff, and my mom would drop us off at my aunt's house, and then she would take us to school at 7. So
Speaking
like,
of Pokemon, we're at the end of an era. Ash Ketchum has officially retired.
what?
Yeah. Which is interesting because, like, early on, I thought it was going to happen sooner to where it would be like an anthology.
Yeah.
Because they kept saying, because, like, they said goodbye to Misty, they said goodbye to Brock. But Ash just kind of, like, kept on. So I was
Yeah.
just like, all right, he's going to be like.
He's the mainstay.
Yeah, he's the mainstay. He's going to be like Batman or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to see that character And recently they were just like, no, we're done with this character. We're moving forward. And I was just like, ouch.
Wow.
Like that really hits home that like I was there
Yeah.
at the debut episode of Ash Ketchum, and I wasn't there for the whole ride, but it was just interesting to like really reflect and be
Yeah.
like, wow, so this truly is the end of an era.
Well, we would watch in the morning. The first thing we would watch was Dennis the Menace.
Okay.
And then we would watch Pokemon.
Okay.
And then after Pokemon, we would watch The Lost World. Which, thinking on it now, we shouldn't have been watching The Lost World.
Was that a cartoon or a
no,
live action?
that
I know
was-
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was like a drama,
It was kind of like Xena and Hercules, but like there were dinosaurs and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I remember that show. Oh my god.
Yeah, we would watch The Lost World.
Yeah, I'd watched that a couple times because like I was a sucker for anything with like dinosaurs or
Yeah.
dragons or giant serpents.
And that's why we watched it. But that was like, we were in elementary school. So like, definitely shouldn't have been watching. But then as we got a little bit older, this is absolutely terrible.
I mean,
And
I have a
can
terrible
say
story
it
to tell, but
because
go for
she
it.
doesn't work there anymore.
Oh.
But my aunt used to be a pharmacist. And so whenever we reached like middle school and intermediate school, we would go to work with my aunt in the morning before we would go to school, before she
Okay.
would drive us to school.
Yeah.
And we had like a little weird like indentured servant shop going on where she would like give us the big bottle of pills, and then me and my brother at like 10 years old would be sorting pills, like prescription pills, to go into what's called like a bubble machine.
Okay.
It's whenever you have like pills that are in a pouch that you have to like pop through the foil.
All right.
So we had a little assembly line where like my brother would put the pills in the little bubble thing, and then I would put it in the cardboard like packaging, and then we would put it in a heat press, and then I would hand it back to my brother, and he would put like the warning labels on. Yeah, we were like 10 years old.
Wow.
That's always like, I don't know, stuck with me. Like, we knew way too much. Like, we knew what different prescription side effects were. Like, we would go into like school and then be like, what did you do this morning? And you're like, I know Xantabum has like a side effect of drowsiness, and you shouldn't operate heavy machinery, and you definitely need to take it with food or else it'll cause ulcers. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, in case you have a heart condition.
Common knowledge. Duh.
Duh.
Come on. Okay, yeah, you took that. I have a messed up story in a whole different direction because mine's brief.
Go for it.
Was, I grew up watching Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, liked it. I watched Xena and thought it was cool. It's like, cool, strong female. Liked it as a kid. Grew up, as I was getting older, I watched Xena again and liked it for different reasons.
Like most boys.
I was just like, oh, hey.
Yep.
And that was my exposure to lesbians. Anywho. Moving right along.
I think that's the issue that I have with the fantasy world.
Lesbians?
No, just the representation of like women and females in general. And we've had this discussion before where it's like, look at War. Like, he is decked out. Full suit of armor, like no one's getting through that. And then
Right.
you'll have like the female character wearing like a chainmail bikini.
Ah,
I'm sorry. Why?
Yeah, that old thing.
So that teenage boys can yank it? Like, stop.
I got you. See, I thought you could, like... There you go. Can push him right into the thing. It's like the helicopter. It's like the plane from Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
Where he just turns around right into the propeller. Boom. Alright. But yeah, we got all these battlements. These are what all the demons are building as they imprison the worms. And as we mentioned earlier, they have fighting arenas that we're going to see. Yeah. Okay. Slowing down time. Moving things through. Ouch. You got really quiet. Is it because you're picturing the bikinis? What's going on?
No, I was just watching. Sorry.
No, you're okay. It was just like...
Chitter, and then, like, bikinis, and then just silence.
Yeah, it just dawned on you that you, like, hated the genre, I guess, because you were just like...
No, I don't hate the genre. I think that's the thing that's the most annoying, is, like, I don't hate the genre. I, like, and it's a me thing. Like, it's something that I wish I could change within myself. But I just hate that, like, they just don't... I don't know. It's just not the same as, like... a cool suit of armor. And I think that's why I like, I just lost her name.
From what?
Metroid.
Oh, Samus.
You know, I love that she's in, like, a full suit of armor. Like, she actually has armor and weapons and skill sets and things. And it's like, yeah, when she dies and she comes out of the armor, she's female. Mm-hmm. But, like, it's not grotesquely done.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Well, alrighty then.
So I don't hate the genre. I just think that, like, I don't know. I feel like I could be more tasteful.
I can agree to that. But unfortunately, that stuff sells.
I know. Because the first time that we had talked about that, I was bitching about it. So you put the...
Because of Shantae, right?
No, it was even while we were still dating.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I was taking risks.
Well, I was complaining about, like, the costumes, and then you were like, I know, and then you put,
yeah!
the weird dick skull, like, and I was like, I don't want to see that either, like, give these people clothes, man!
Because, like, I was just making pages, and as I went through, you noticed that the trend that, like, some women were scantily clad. You were just like, well, seems like a nice game, but it's a shame the girl's scantily clad. And after a while, I was just like, this one has a scantily clad male. Let's see how she reacts to that.
I think what it isn't necessarily that they're scantily clad. It's the proportioning. Because I noticed, like, in games where they're still proportioned correctly, I don't care as much what they're wearing. It's just like Donna. Like, Donna is very scantily clad.
You were iffy about Donna until you realized she had an amazing personality.
I was iffy about Donna. But then I was like, I would take a bullet for this character. She is so cute. Like, but also seeing her in the game and the community that she is a part of made sense.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely helps. But I know that as soon as you start up the game, it's an image of Donna.
And I was like,
and that's the first thing you saw, and you were just like, oh boy, here we go.
But then it's like you get to know they're like, okay, they live in like this like tropical kind of climate, and everyone is dressed like that. It's not just like, ooh, the one female character. Like, no, like everybody is dressed as though they are in a tropical climate. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And also she didn't have like giant boobs and then like itty bitty waist, giant butt, like she wasn't gonna snap in half because of her proportions. Whereas that, I'm just like, come on.
I got you.
Really?
Well, the only thing I can say is it's a lot easier when we get to the 2D games.
Yeah.
With the exception of Shantae.
I wasn't even upset with, like, most of the design of Shantae.
No?
She's a genie. Like, I was expecting, like, belly dancer. Mm-hmm. Which is usually, like, the tube top type thing.
Yeah.
With, like, the poofy pants.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, I don't think that that's offensive at all. She wasn't, like, top heavy or, like, overly well endowed, you know. I don't know.
I know it's like your Achilles heel.
It is.
But I understand that, like, in most cases it's not your fault. Like, these designers do it intentionally when they don't have to.
But you're right. It's because it sells, and not just for boys. Like, I do want to make that clear. Like, it's not just for boys. Like, there are girls and women that love the chainmail bikini. They think it's hot. And I'm just like, why?
Well, like
that's why I'm like, I know it's a me thing. It's not.
Going back to what started this whole conversation was like Xena was huge for young girls, like huge for like boys and girls alike, but mainly girls because
it's a strong
at that
woman.
time,
Like
at that time, it was Hercules is for the boys,
Xena
is for the girls. But this isn't your damsel in distress,
right? She
Xena is
herself.
a badass chick who's going to take matter into her own hands, and like I'm pretty sure like that was like the drive behind Xena.
Yeah.
And of the two, Xena's aged better. Probably helps that the actor for Xena has continued to keep her mouth shut on politics, unlike the actor for Hercules. But beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, I never really liked Xena.
I preferred Hercules because it had more monsters, but Xena did have better fight choreography.
My big thing is, and it's something I've noticed, and I could be completely wrong. It could just be what I've been exposed to and what I've been watching.
Shit.
But like anytime that there's like a girl-centric show, even if they're badass and they like have cool fight scenes and monsters and like, you know, they're not like the stereotypical feminine girl, you know, they can be big and strong. There's always a fucking romance. There's always a romance, like, and it drives me nuts. And I'm just like, why does there have to be, like, a line of romance?
Now you sound like my mother, because she's always just like, oh, mush. Always a mush.
I just mean it because it's like, you can have Hercules, who, like, he's a badass, and he has a purpose to, like, fight for something.
Oh, Hercules kills his wife in the first episode.
Yeah, you know, but whatever. But it's like, it's more than just to get the girl, you know? Whereas, like, I feel like the female-centric, it's always a romance. Like, there's not necessarily like, oh, I have to save the world. It's to get the guy, you know? To get, like, to fall in love. Like, as soon as you fall in love, everything falls into place and blah, 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 blah.
So, you're wrong, because remember when I said lesbians? Xena's about Xena and Gabrielle being a thing.
It's turn of phrase.
Oh, turn of phrase.
Like,
Gotcha.
I'm not saying like actually to get the guy, but like to get the partner. You know, that there's it's always romance. It's always like feelings and emotion driven instead of like, I don't know. It just always really annoyed me.
Okay. Just not like in the romantic shoehorn subplot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because even
No, it's
like,
a common complaint.
even when I was
It
little,
bogs down a lot
I
of good
like
stories.
whenever I was younger, I didn't like that either. I was always just like, where's the action? Like, get this shit out of here.
Alrighty. Yeah, sometimes it's just like, hey, these two got to be together, but they have no chemistry whatsoever, but they got to be together.
And it's just like, why can't they just save the world without, like, needing to fall in love?
Well,
That'd be great.
that's this game. There is no love.
I'm
only
for
death.
it. Let's do it.
We'll see you all in the... Well, actually, war. Death is in the sequel. We'll see you all in the next episode.
Doodles! But death and war have to fall in love.